Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host, coming to you live on a Tuesday in which we were planning to do a Chargers trade targets episode. The trade deadline is a month away, and I did have a Baltimore Raven edge rusher on the slideshow. His name was Tavius Robinson, but instead, Joe Ortiz decided to call up his old friends, and they swung a trade for Odafe Oweh in exchange for Alohi Gilman, and we'll break down all of that. Unfortunately, have to talk about the Omarion Hampton to injured reserve situation. And then we're going to talk about Bradley Bozeman as well today because we both watched the film and we have to do it. So joining me to do all of that, as always, is my good friend Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. There's a lot to talk about, and I know this move isn't going to win the Chargers the Super Bowl, but you all just kind of feel a little more hope, a little scrap of optimism. It's there now, and I can hold on to that for at least a few more days before they possibly lose to Tua and the Dolphins. But for now, they're winners.
Yeah. Romeo says, we are so back. Alex Katzen, we are so back. Dylan Cole, let's go. A little bit of hope when we sorely needed it. Mighty says that he loves the move. Seems like we do too. Tap King says, let's get delusional. So it seems like the chat mostly is very positive on the trade, and we'll get to all of that. But the dopium hit was real today for sure. So yeah, I'm at work, right? And I'm like walking around. So I leave my phone in my office and I go out to try and, get to some of my students and things like that. And I was gone for maybe like 10, 15 minutes. And I come back, and the first message I see on my phone is Tyler just saying Oweh in all caps. And I'm like, wait, what is going on right now? And then you see all of the stuff, all of the details that came out. So a good messaging there for the Chargers. I think this is a very positive move. So we'll jump into all of that here in a second. Before we get there, of course, have to give a quick shout out to begin to our friends over at PrizePicks. The best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. Whatever sport is your boat, you can definitely get in on the action over at PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the action on any of the football players regarding to the Chargers, whether that is Justin Herbert's number, Keenan Allen's number, who hit 1,000 career receptions this week. You want to make sure you get in on the action on PrizePicks, where it is available in over 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The best way to do that is to download the app and use the code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. All right, let's jump in here. Things happened. Like I mentioned earlier, Chargers trading for Odafe Oweh, receiving also a 7th-round pick in 2027. And they will be sending the Baltimore Ravens Alohi Gilman, as well as a 2026 5th-round pick. So you and I have been talking all summer and fall about the Chargers needing another edge rusher opposite of Tuli Tuipulotu, and in addition to Khalil Mack when he returns. Where does this land on your satisfaction rate in the Chargers getting Odafe Oweh instead of some of the other players that we were going to talk about today?
Oh, this is fantastic. We were going to talk about edge rushers. I think we had 5 or 6 possible options, and it was just nice to hit delete on those. I genuinely thought they should do this, some sort of move, but I wasn't sure if they were really going to. And of course, the risk was, what kind of draft capital are they giving up? Are they giving up next year's draft capital, etc.? But we'll talk about the numbers in a sec, of course, with Oweh, but they desperately needed this. Our first film review after the first game, which was a win over the Chiefs, you and I both said they got to get pass rush help. Now, it could have been interior defensive line. I'd be fine with that. But they needed something. And we watched Jaden Daniels. I sat there and went 4-1,000, 5 Mississippi. It was taking forever for them to do anything against Daniels. And, of course, eventually Luke McCaffrey gets open and Deebo Samuel gets open, or you run for 25 yards. Now you have somebody in Oweh who can truly be Not that he's the greatest pass rusher in the world, but he's a whole heck of a lot better than what they had. We spent 5 weeks going, all right, where's Bud Dupree's pass rush win rate this week? Oh, it's slightly above 0. Cool. Like that's
Sick.
sick. What about the other guy? Murphy? Slightly higher than slightly above 0. Awesome. Mac gets hurt. Oh, great. Now where are we? We were desperate for anything. Any kind of edge rusher move, I would have applauded. The way they went about getting Oweh. Now, I know some people in the chat are saying, well, this is a 1-year rental. Possibly. We don't know for sure. It is possible they retain him. It's also possible that he gets a really big contract next year and they get a nice comp pick for this that is nothing like a 2026 5th round pick. They can get a much better comp pick out of this one should all things work out. So it just, all of this made sense. We've wanted an edge rusher or some sort of pass rusher. We knew they had a very crowded safety room. And you had said after, I want to say the Broncos game, I don't know how you take Tony Jefferson off of the field.
Yeah.
Molden coming back and starting to play. What do you do? What is the answer here? Turns out the answer is let's, leverage our depth at safety with Gilman, who's on an expiring contract. So not only do you get Jefferson on the field more, who I'd argue has been better this year, and Molden, who will be and should be better than Gilman. So not only do you actually get a better secondary technically, though you do lose depth, but now you upgrade and get, at worst, an edge 3 this year that is not in the 100s in win rate and productivity. And it barely costs you anything. I think this is not going to win the Chargers a Super Bowl, but it puts them on the right track, and I applaud Joe Hortiz and everybody for getting on the phone and getting this done.
Yeah, I think this is a very smart deal honestly for both sides in this exchange. The Ravens needed some secondary help. They have a bunch of pass rushers. I kind of floated the idea, after the Nnamdi Madubuike injury came out, hey, maybe let's do a Tito Ogbonia, Tavis Robinson kind of swap, just because the Ravens need bodies. They played CJ Okoye 40 snaps this last week. They're in rough shape on the defensive line. So they need some bodies there. I thought that was maybe something they could explore. But getting Oweh, who is in the last year of his contract, is 26, and a lot of the Ravens people I follow were this is really frustrating because he never really panned out for a first round edge rusher. And it's well, the Chargers don't need him to be a first round edge rusher caliber player. They just need him to be better than Bud Dupree and Caleb Murphy. The bar is literally at the floor. So I think it just makes all the sense in the world. He fits exactly the type of edge rusher that we wanted the Chargers to get. Obviously the Bud Dupree extension meant that hey, you need a speed rusher to kind of round out this room. And, we thought that might be Kyle Kennard. Maybe that was Caleb Murphy. But there's just no juice in that room right now. And, on 3 of the biggest plays that the Commanders were able to get on Sunday, they brought Thule, Bud, and Caleb Murphy out on the field together. I think one of them might have been, Cleveland Farrell. And so Thule goes inside. He does a little stunt on one time, him and Justin Boyd be running into each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the big Luke McCaffrey play. And there's no edge pressure at all against Laramie Tunsil and Josh Connerly. And there's another one where Thule, he gets around, and he nice through in between the center and the left guard. But Daniels quietly just steps to his right and he hits Deebo Samuel for a big gain. Again, no edge pressure. And there was 3 or 4 times where anytime Thule kicks inside, there's just nothing going with Bud Dupree, Caleb Murphy, Kyle Kennard, Cleveland Farrell, whoever it was. And that bears out on tape. It bears out on the stat sheet. And the Chargers they build a lot of their pass rush plan around these 3 edge rusher looks. And last year when you had Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and Thule, it looks great. This year when you don't have Joey Bosa and you don't have Khalil Mack, it looked horrible. So now with Odafe Oweh coming in, you can salvage that, part of your plan and be able to solve some issues in the short term. And then Khalil Mack should be back, in the next couple of weeks here. And when he comes back, now you can potentially cook with gas. And I think this pass rush can really get cranked up a few notches from what we've seen the last few weeks.
Even with Bud Dupree in week 1, they were there's a new starting left guard here in Kingsley Suamataia. Let's go after him. So it was Thule once, it was Mack to end the game or close to end the game. all that was so important. Then you don't have Mac, and it's just like, okay, Thule, go do your thing and hope the rest can work. But with Oweh out there, it makes it so much better, as you pointed out. When Mac comes back, it'll be so much better. At minimum, it's just you have an athlete out there. I don't know what Murphy's RAS is, but I am sure Oweh's is better than Dupree's. Granted, Oweh's is better than pretty much every edge rusher ever. Yeah, but it's certainly higher than Dupree's. Like when you have a mobile quarterback or anything, you could just, at minimum, I know Oweh's not the greatest pass rusher, hasn't a great pass rush arsenal. That was even him coming out of college. But at least if you're going to rush like Bud Dupree, at least you've got a giant RAS that's like a 9.9 or whatever it is to back you up, because I'll take that. Like if all you do is motor rush the quarterback and get a few pressures and sacks, like great. That's better than what Dupree's already been. I'm sure he'll be better than that. But like you said, the bar is so low. They needed anything. And I'm a little surprised by the Ravens fans' response to this, because like your team sucks. So what are you celebrating here? Yeah. They must have it really nice, because I had Ravens fans going like, oh, he's not very good. Like he's not very good. I'm responding like, I don't think you understand how bad the Chargers edge rushers, not named Thule or Mac, but Thule right now are. And like Chargers fans are, why are they celebrating this? This player sucks. For one, we'll talk about the stats in a bit. That doesn't even bear out statistically. But two, we desperately needed this. So Ravens fans, if you know more than I do, and granted, you've clearly watched more Ravens football than I do, that's fine. But this reminds me of like, I don't know, some other half-decent Chargers player that maybe Chargers fans don't like for whatever reason, but he's actually average or above average or something. But Chargers fans just want to get rid of him because he sucks. Yeah, this is what it kind of strikes me as. So again, Ravens fans who are listening, I guess you can let me know. To me, this just feels like a very good move by the Chargers, and I'm very happy with this one. And you know, as Tom points out, one man's trash, another man's treasure. Boy, I heard a lot of last year from Titans fans about Molden and
Christian Fulton,
and at this point Tart. Yep. You know, no, I didn't know who Puna Ford. I mean, I knew who Puna Ford was, but like, give me a break. No one was out there trying to give $20 million contracts to Puna Ford. Right. And yet every single person got a really big deal or a second deal this offseason. Yep. So, I mean, look, say what you want about the interior offensive line and like how they haven't panned out. I can pretty much point to everybody on the defensive line and say they've improved in some capacity. I would say Boygby looks better. Caldwell looks good. Hand looks good. Tart looks good. Ford looks good. I mean, Thule has improved in his own right. Like the only person who's not improving is Bud Dupree, but he's 33 at this point. Like that's there. Where's the room to improve? Right. That's not going to happen. So you put Elston with Oweh, you eventually have Thule, you eventually have Khalil Mack all together. I think Ravens fans will go, yeah, you know, he actually looks kind of good over here with the Chargers.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that obviously is stemming from he's a first-round pick, and you're expecting a first-round edge rusher with a near-perfect RAS score to be this, you know, freakazoid player. But at the end of the day, like this is a guy who has a lot of proven track record as a pass rusher, and he's not the most dynamic run defender, although it seems like he's made some strides there this year. The Chargers aren't, when Khalil Mack is back, the Chargers will not need him to be a dynamic run defender. They'll need him to be a situational pass rusher who can get after the quarterback, again, open up that part of their playbook and, you know, just kind of help the pass rush down. And I think some of the coverage issues that we have seen over the last couple of weeks have been because these corners and these safeties have to match routes for 4, 5, 6 seconds sometimes. And that's just a very difficult ask for any secondary to hold up with. So I think overall, you know, we felt like the Chargers needed an injection of talent. And obviously, you know, everybody wants a Micah Parsons trade, right? And, you know, I think this is not that, but I still think this is a very useful player who will help the entirety of the defense because he'll just give you more opportunities for sacks, more opportunities for pressures, more opportunities for hits. I know he doesn't have any sacks right now, technically. But again, we just saw with Thule where he doesn't have any sacks. And then in week 4, he has 4 because it's just kind of one of those things where once you get going, you get going. So I think overall a very positive move for the edge room, for the defense. Obviously the Chargers are losing Alohi Gilman. I think a lot of the online vitriol that he has faced over the last few years is very unjustified to me. This is a guy who started his football career at Navy as a very low star recruit, ends up going to Notre Dame, gets drafted to play special teams, and then after year 1 is like thrust into a starting role. And I think there are definitely some mistakes to his game, But that 2023 season where he had 2 interceptions, I think it was 3 forced fumbles, 7 pass breakups. He was like the 3rd highest graded safety on PFF. And I know PFF grades are very tricky sometimes, but this is a guy who was a former 6th-round pick, special teams player, became a really, I think, at least solid starting caliber player. And yeah, he was never like a star, but he was a 6th-round pick. And anytime you can get a second contract from a late day 3 pick, that's a major win for your front office. And obviously Tom Telesco is not here, but this is probably easily the most significant day 3 pick that Tom Telesco made of his career. I think it was the only one who made it to a second contract outside of Easton Stick. And Easton Stick was obviously a backup quarterback for this team, never really a starter. So limited player, but a good player who turned his career into a great story, I think. And I will wish him very well in Baltimore for however long that stay is last for them. I think it'll be a good fit for both teams here.
Yeah, he overperformed his draft position and frankly just who he was coming out of the draft. And I think everyone, not that I was watching a ton of Alohi Gilman tape back in the day, I wasn't. I think everyone went who when they drafted him, and you look at the numbers and the RAS, and it's like, ugh, I don't know about this guy. And he wasn't great to start his career, and they kept trying to replace him. It was okay, here's Nasir Adderley, a 2nd-round pick, here's JT Woods, a 3rd-round pick. And he kept just being the available guy, the healthy guy, the smart guy. Derwin James spoke highly of him. And at the peak of what he could do, other than Derwin James, was some of the best safety play we've seen from a Chargers safety in some time. Like, he was every bit the best parts of that 2023 defense, which was like 2 things. But he was one of them. And you remember all the 4th down stops against the Vikings. They're driving. Alohi Gilman helps end that. The Packers, they tried to go for on 4th down. He ends that. Against the Browns, I think he either forces 2 turnovers or whatever it was. Heck, even the Texans this past year in the playoffs, he forces a fumble. He has a pass breakup. There's great moments in there for a player that was drafted as a 6th-round pick. So wish him all the best. He was by the fans that actually go to practices, like Karen and these guys and Die Hard Bolt Club and all these people. Seems like a very beloved, like, good guy. Whatever you want to say about the player on the field, seems like he was a great guy. Honestly, if you had asked me who were like the 5 players you'd want to interview on the Chargers, Gilman would have been one of them. I want to know your story. I want to know about how you got to where you were. I think it'd be so inspiring for so many people, so many late draft picks as well. So, yeah, wish him all the best.
Yeah, Lohi is one of the few players at training camp who will sign an autograph for you, then actually have a conversation with you. A lot of the players are just like, signing, get me out of here. Alohi will stop and like talk to you and get to know you. And he's a genuinely like a really, really good dude. Did a lot obviously for the fires in Hawaii when those happened. So he's a good guy. The locker room, a lot of the guys have already tweeted and posted about him. Like they're going to miss him. And there's a human side of this where, he has to uproot his family and move to Baltimore for 3 months. And then he's a free agent after that. So we'll see. Maybe this is a long-term situation for Baltimore. They've really struggled, in the back 7 without having like a reliable veteran to play alongside Kyle Hamilton. So maybe this might be a long-term situation for him. And I hope it is. I hope it's a long-term situation for both of these players, which we can definitely talk about as well. So from a cap space standpoint, for those wondering, it sounds like the Chargers are going to take on about $8 million here for Odafe Oweh, who's playing on the 5th-year option this season. And they'll definitely be eligible for an extension at the end of the season. If you're looking forward here, you're probably looking at like the Josh Sweat, Greg Rousseau, George Karlaftis range, which is between $19 and $21 million for him. And I think that's also like a very similar number for what the Chargers could be looking at for Thule. So it's going to be very interesting. If Oweh is just good, and if he is kind of a bridge between last season and what he's been so far for the Ravens this season, is that a player you want to extend, or is that a player you want to test free agency? Khalil Mack has not threatened, but he's considered retirement for like the last 3 years. So if Khalil retires, I think you probably do have to bring back Odafe Oweh, and then you ride into next season with Oweh and Thule, albeit a very expensive tandem. So I just think it's setting up for a very interesting part of the offseason, depending on how Khalil wants to respond to this, and does he, actually retire next year? We'll see. But I think there is a chance where Oweh, Thule, and Khalil are on this roster next year, and the Chargers have a very, very expensive edge room again after having one previously with Khalil and Joey Bosa.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have in this case. Like if Oweh contributes this year but isn't great, you can let him go, get some sort of comp pick. If he is good, you can pay him, and great, he's a part of your team next year. Or if he's really good, you don't pay him, you get a comp pick. You have flexibility with the Khalil Mack situation as well. I'm thankfully with Mack, it's not some lower body knee injury, so it's not like, oh God, here we go. There's more risk here. It was just a freak accident. Otherwise, he's generally been fine outside of the double groin tear or whatever it was, which sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would like Oweh to stick around if it works out. I just think,
yeah,
if you have a player who can get you 40 to 50 pressures, let's say, and generally speaking, he's been about a 30 to 40, almost 50 pressure guy with including postseason, I'll take it. If we're talking about, edge rusher in the first round, or the best center prospect is right there for you, or edge rusher in the first round, and whatever it is, if you can just throw money at this problem with a player you're already very familiar with, who's you found out also works in your system, and I don't see why not, because he worked at McDonald's too, then I think that's just a win.
Yeah.
What did Rusty just say?
Rusty's in the chat talking about trading Quentin Johnston, and I'm just over it. So he's in timeout right now, and he wasn't being mean, but I asked him to stop earlier, and he didn't. So
okay,
that's what you get.
Yeah, lovely.
Last thing here from a Chargers perspective, they only have 5 draft picks next year, so they have their own first round pick, second round pick, third round pick, and fourth round pick. And the 5th round pick this year goes to the Ravens. They have their own 6th round pick, and then the 7th round pick is going to the Tennessee Titans, courtesy of the Elijah Molden trade. So definitely something to keep in mind. 5 draft picks is not the amount of picks that Joe Ortiz will make next year. I would imagine that he will be spamming the trade down button to get that number up to 9 or 10 if he can. But just something to keep in mind as we later on in the show are also going to be talking about, some potential running back trades and things like that. So 5 draft picks is not a lot, and I would expect that number to increase next April.
I would imagine that to be true.
All right. Let's get to some of the numbers here for Odafe Oweh in terms of pass rush win rate, pass rush productivity, and run stop rate.
Yeah, this is where I have to look at some Ravens fans and go, like, are you sure it was that bad? Could it be better? Absolutely. Is he a disappointment based on draft status? Sure. But his numbers look kind of good. Strangely, this sounds like a Zion Johnson conversation. So here I go. In terms of pass rush win rate, Oweh is 28th. In terms of pass rush productivity, he's 80th. And run stop rate, he's 3rd. Pass rush productivity is more like, are you capitalizing on those wins? Are you getting the pressure? Are you getting a sack in particular? I like the win rate stuff because it's like, are you beating the offensive lineman across from you? And run stop rate being 3rd was a genuine surprise. Again, people wondering what is the good win here. Murphy in win rate and Dupree in win rate, 106th, 111th. In pass rush productivity, 92nd, 102nd. Run stop rate, 92nd, 102nd. I don't know. I didn't do maths. But to me, 28th and even 80th and 3rd sounds better than 106th and 111th. Steven, your thoughts?
Yeah, and this is just through the PFF numbers. On ESPN, his pass rush win rate at edge is 20%, which would actually be a career high for him. So this is I'm not going to call this a coup, but I think this is very close to the Chargers upgrading in a big way this upcoming season. So we've seen the Chargers edge rushers opposite of Thule just basically be a nothing burger. Like there were times on Sunday where they just would put Justin Boybe out there because, hey man, at least he'll set the edge for you in the run game. And God, he's 300 pounds. He's a defensive tackle, but
sure.
This is a significant upgrade for the Chargers, and you're getting it for a player who I think is really solid. But you have a lot of depth at safety. So you're sending the Ravens basically Alohi and a 6th round pick for a pretty significant upgrade at pass rusher. I think you make this deal 10 times out of 10. And I think the run stop rate will probably come down just based off like what I have seen from him,
Sure.
in the games that the Chargers have played against him and stuff like that. But you're getting him for the pass rush win rate, and he is definitely somebody who can, impact that. And just for what it's worth, last year he was 29th in pass rush win rate at 13%. So this is a guy who will be in the top 30 in pass rush win rate, and I think that's exactly what this Chargers team needed.
Yeah, not a problem there at all. Well, I'd like to see Thule jump up a little higher here, but to have another running mate across from him is maybe going to help him too.
Yeah, a lot of Thule's pressures just come off of effort. He's never really been like hey, I'm just going to cross chop you. I'm going to turn a corner on you. Like, he's going to try and run through your face and then get after you that way. But Bud Dupree, even last year when the Chargers played him, he hit a cross chop on Rashawn Slater and got right to Justin Herbert with an inside move that I have not seen Slater lose like that in a long time. So he's somebody who can win quickly, and I think that's the biggest thing here is that the Chargers, when they do get home, it's a lot of power rushers. It's a lot of, the quarterbacks can still get to the top of their drops and still maybe go through one or two reads, and then it hits home. With Oweh, you have a guy who can impact the passer before he gets to his drop, and I think that's a skill set that the team really, really was missing before today.
Yeah. So as far as now the way the room is shaken out, Mac is now TBD on returning, so that's kind of going to throw a wrench in it for a couple of weeks. But Thule, Oweh are active. I'm assuming Bud Dupree is active. We're not kind of at this weird spot with Murphy and Kennard and Farrell, I guess, if they want to do that. We sort of discussed this in our own group chat. Where do you see them going with this? Do they just keep everybody active and keep them on the roster? Is Caleb Murphy still on the roster to play special teams? And then who is off the roster, essentially? What changes because they added Oweh? I know Gilman's gone too, but specifically the edge room.
In terms of the edge room, I think until Khalil comes back, you're going to roll with Oweh, Thule, Bud Dupree. Dupree can play your run defense downs while Oweh kind of gets up to speed. And then Murphy is your special teams player. Kennard is probably a healthy scratch. I think that doesn't really change much for them right now. Farrell's on the practice squad, so he doesn't have to be elevated unless they want him to be. But we'll see what happens there. Obviously, what's going to be very interesting when Khalil comes back, what happens with Caleb Murphy and Kyle Kennard, because I think they should just outright cut Bud Dupree. Like, he's giving you no pass rush production at all. Caleb Murphy is your special teams player there, and he's really good at that. Like, I know that he can perform well in that role. So you got to keep him active. Kyle Kennard, you don't even trust to play over Cleveland Farrell at this point in his career. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Can you afford to cut Kyle Kennard? I just think taking an early loss on a draft pick like that is potentially a little dicey, because you just talked about earlier, like, these players can develop under this coaching staff. Can you risk losing the chance that Kyle Kennard develops for you next year? I don't know. So the easy answer is you cut Bud Dupree, and I don't think anybody's going to be lining up to sign him. Maybe bring him back on the practice squad. But I don't know if this team extended him for no reason. The edge room loves him. The defense loves him. So I don't know, man. I think it should be a Bud Dupree cut, but I don't know if I buy them actually doing it.
Yeah, I don't think they'll end up doing it. So if they cut post June 1st, $3.6 million dead cap this year doesn't really matter. They will cut him next year. That's for sure. If they have these options and he's back, I'd be stunned. But they can save $3.5 million if they cut him now on next year's contract. So it'll be somewhere. I don't know where, but it will be somewhere. Someone will be cut. Someone will be inactive or whatever. I think they just go with the guys they have. I don't think they cut Dupree or Murphy or Kennard.
Yeah, I guess without the 6 safeties on the roster, theoretically you could keep this group intact. Now, when Hampton comes back from IR, which we'll get to here in a second, and you need that other spot, you need another spot for Denzel Perryman, that becomes a little tricky. But in in theory, you could keep the 6 edge rusher. Wait, is it 6? Yeah, you could keep the 6 edge rushers and figure it out elsewhere. But the easy answer is just to cut to Bud Dupree and get him back on the practice squad.
I wouldn't mind. It's not been working for them. You can still keep him around in the practice squad for the vibes, the leadership, all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
All right, Tyler. Any other thoughts on Odafe Oweh before we continue on here?
Just excited to see how he does as he ramps up over the next couple of weeks. Please don't panic if on Sunday he doesn't have 40 pressures and 2 sacks against Tua. Excuse me. I'm sure it'll take some time to ramp up, but I'm sure he'll also be very eager to ramp up and get out there. And it's a contract year for him, so I think he'll have some fun.
Contract year, new team. If you're him looking for a new start, going from Harbaugh to Harbaugh is probably not what you were expecting or hoping for.
Yeah.
But at least it's, different city. You don't have to deal with the Baltimore winters. You get a brand new training facility. So it's not all bad, obviously.
Baltimore sucks.
Yeah, Baltimore's horrible. I don't know where their practice facility is, but if you made me point to on a map, like where would I least want to live? It's probably Baltimore.
It's the only city I've ever driven through where I'm like, not getting out of the car. I can hold it. I'm not that hungry, actually, Dad.
Yeah. 100%.
Sorry, no offense to there are some nice people, including I think Leia's from Baltimore. I don't know if she still resides there. Generally not a fan of the city.
Yeah, it's all good. Some people got mad at us for our St. Louis jokes last week. It's everybody has their preferences.
Sorry, we're California snobs. What can we say?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Before we get to Omarion Hampton and the running back situation, we are going to take a quick break for our audio audience, and then we'll be right back after this. All right. On a less positive side, Mr. Omarion Hampton is going to be placed on injured reserve, according to Mr. Jim Harbaugh. So we have not gotten that transaction officially quite yet. The Chargers generally do that transaction later in the week, so we'll see what happens there. Based on the reporting, he's dealing with some kind of ankle injury that happened on that 4th down play where him and Frankie Louvu got tangled up, and it was just kind of an awkward situation. He tried to come back into the game, tried to retape it, did not work out. He is going to miss a minimum of 4 games: Miami, Indianapolis, Minnesota, and Tennessee. Could potentially be back for the Steelers game. It sounds like, based off of Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, that there's a pretty good chance that he does miss just the 4 games, which would be great. But man, it's really difficult to put into words and context how significant of a loss this is for a Chargers offense that has been reeling the last 2 weeks. And this particular stretch of games is a pretty nice stretch of games for a good running back. So this is, again, another injury to, just kind of add to the, pour some salt in the wound, so to speak, with Hampton going to injured reserve.
It sucks. It was such a surprise to us in the stadium because all of a sudden, this big final drive, where's Hampton? And of course, we find out with the injury and the walking boot and whatnot. Rewatching the film, the vision, the feel for the flow of the offense, the way he was making people miss after the catch, he was so night and day better than he was week 1. Like, this was a guy you could lean on, give him 20 to 25 touches, and just go. Let him work. He looked fantastic. And then as soon as he was out of that game, you just felt everything was like they had nothing. Now they did drive pretty far down the field to the 1 yard line, but it really just felt like he scores. He scores. He's your answer. Everything the Chargers weren't doing right, at least they had Hampton. You can't pass protect, can't block. We'll get to all that in a sec. But at least you have Hampton. You can check it down to him. You can run it with him. They broke it outside with him. It was looking great. And to lose him in that game sucked and really turned the game. The fact that he's out for 4 games at minimum really, really sucks. I know it's not official. It's going to happen at some point. Before this trade for Oweh, thankfully, boosted my spirits. Hampton going on 4 games for IR at minimum really just deflated my whole thought process in the next few games.
Yeah.
Which it's a Herbert team. The receivers are all healthy. And yet without Hampton, it just felt like things were so bleak. And it really kind of does. He just looked so good the last 3 weeks. To see him not be able to finish the season with a full season is a bummer. Now, all the Twitter doctors say, hey, it's going to be fine. He should be back after 4.
Sure.
He's going to be fine. It's not a big issue long term. It just sucks. The Chargers are basically in a must-win game next week against the Dolphins, because things like that is the game you have to win before you get to some more of the difficult ones. And without Hampton, it just feels that more difficult.
Yeah, he was on pace for like 1,100 yards and rushing and 500 yards receiving. Like there was this kind of transition the last 2 weeks where the first 3 games, it was all about the receivers. You saw some flashes from Hampton and stuff like that. And the last 2 games, Hampton was the engine of the offense. And, or at least the game and a half or whatever it ended up being. So I really think that the Chargers were going to just turn the offense over to him, and rightfully so, because he's been so much fun to watch on tape the last few weeks. The vision, obviously, like you mentioned, the physicality, the amount of times where he just runs through 2 or 3 tackles on a play is just so much fun. So I am hopeful that this is a short-term absence and he's able to get right back to it. Obviously, ankle injuries for a running back are never ideal. So hopefully the injury reserve part of this is just like an abundance of caution, and he can heal up, get back to his usual self, and, get back for the home stretch of the season, really like those final 6 games where they need to have him back out there, I think is really, really important. So yeah, it sucks, especially this week against the Dolphins. Like you mentioned, must-win game. The Dolphins are, I think, 31st in EPA per rush and 32nd in success rate per rush allowed. So Hampton would have done some nasty things this upcoming week, and then gives you a chance to potentially win the Colts game as well. And I've been nervous about the Titans game or the Vikings game forever since that came out on the schedule. But at least with Hampton and Herbert and the receivers, you feel like, hey man, like they could potentially go in and actually win against the Dolphins. Outside chance against the Colts, but the Colts defense isn't exactly world beater. So maybe with the trio of receivers and Hampton, you can kind of right the ship here. But now without him, it definitely makes things more difficult.
Yeah. So at least with their season, it's Miami, Indy's tricky, Minnesota, Tennessee. Let's say you can get through 2-2. 2-2 sounds solid. But then if Hampton can come back for like the Steelers, the Jaguars, that's more of like the AFC, not contenders, but playoff picture people, the Jags with how's that Devin Lloyd interception for you, Steve? Is that pretty fun?
It was so cool.
It was great.
It was so cool, man. I had to pause Lord of the Rings. We were watching the Fellowship last night, finishing it. I had to pause it and turn it back on to the game. So yeah, Devin Lloyd's awesome, man. I will always be happy when Devin Lloyd is making good plays.
Yeah. So Hampton back for a game like that, of course. Then there's the bye, which is nice, and then it's just, we'll skip Vegas, but then Philly, Kansas City, Dallas, Houston, Denver. That is if he's back for a stretch, that's the one I want him back for. So if he's missing 4 games, this is not the worst stretch. It's more just where the Chargers are at than the opponents they're facing.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see exactly what the Chargers are doing. Kamani Vidal will be on the 53 at some point this week, Jim Harbaugh said. He also said that they were going to explore other options. They worked out a few running backs today, including Royce Freeman and Naheem Miller-Hines. I forget who the other name was. Travion Williams, I want to say. Anyways, so they worked out some practice squad running backs. Miller-Hines expected to be on the practice squad tomorrow, which I think could potentially help the return game also. But either way, man, going from Hampton and Najee Harris to Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins, that's a little brutal for the Chargers, man. Like it's tough, man. Tough to really build a running game when you're going from 2, higher end running backs to replacement level running backs who were on the practice squad and things like that for Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal.
Yeah, it's a bummer. And the Chargers don't have the Eagles lines. They can't just throw like Miles Sanders and get him paid $40 billion, or Kenneth Gainwell out there and get him having 5 yards a carry. It's not quite that group either.
Yeah. They love Hassan Haskins, and he got more snaps after the injury, but I think this should be Kamani's time. Like at minimum, he should be the one getting the pass catching touches because Haskins just does not have the juice to give you anything after the catch. Like they've done some really nice things with getting Hampton the ball in space out as a pass catcher. I actually loved the idea where they put Trey Harris in the backfield and then jet sweeped Hampton and they did like a little pop pass to him. I actually loved that call. That's not something you're going to do for us on Haskins. You can do it for Miller Hines and Vidal if you want, but right now I think a lot of their best stuff from a running back perspective has been getting them to the perimeter, and you're not doing that with Haskins. So I am hopeful that Kamani Vidal is ultimately the one that becomes the guy who gets more touches over the next 4 or potentially 5 weeks while Hampton rests up.
Yeah, I feel like the outside has also been so good for Vidal, either in the preseason. We've seen that against the Rams early on. Obviously, the most recent game against the Commanders was his best run. The touchdowns this past year, I think, against the Rams, when he had 3. But one was a good, nice run to the outside. So, yeah, I like Haskins in his role, but when that role has to become more involved, you see the returns diminish.
Yeah, I think so too. The last thing I'm going to say with this particular thing, you guys have to move on from Rocket Sanders. Like it just, I'm so done with the Rocket Sanders stuff right now. He was a player I was like mildly curious by. He had some cool moments in the preseason. You just have to get over it. He averaged 3.5 yards per carry in the preseason, you guys. It was not like he was lighting up the world. Okay, this is not a Marlo Wax situation. It was not a Nico Reed situation. He was like, okay, like he was interesting. Once Najee Harris was healthy again, there was no chance he was ever making the roster. So we got to move on. He's fine. He's not even playing for the Cleveland Browns. Like we got to move on. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns could literally use anything to do anything positive, and he has 3 rushes for 1 yard, which I think are mostly goal line carry stuff, but. Yeah, he wasn't good in the preseason, guys.
he had like 2 good runs.
He was hurt all offseason.
Yeah.
He didn't even play the first game, didn't play special teams, had under 4 yards per carry in the preseason. We're like, oh, this sucks. I mean, I see some tweets like from accounts, I'll never forgive the Chargers for cutting Rocket Sanders. Like, what? Like, this is where this really? That one? I hope he is good. You know, I'm not saying Sanders would have been bad with the Chargers, but like, yeah, the vitriol, like, oh, Rocket Sanders. You know, I do the I forgot his name now. Bobby Holly, the former fullback. I do that as a bit. Like me and Bobby Holly, that was a bit. It was a fullback. So move on. Rocket Sanders, like curse you, Spanos. There's so many other things. There's a million other things I would talk about before I get to Sanders.
Yeah, he was fine, but you know, if the Chargers had cut him and Najee were going to be on the NFI list, that would have been a different conversation. But you know, once Najee was cleared, you have Hampton, Najee being your 1-2 punch. Haskins is your special teams guy. They were set. That was it. There was no debate. And Kamani was getting a lot of first team special teams reps, and they still cut him. And Kamani, I think, was objectively better in the preseason than Rocket Sanders was. So, yeah, if you think the Chargers have Rocket Sanders right now, that their rushing attack is like fixed, they're good. I don't know what to tell you. Like he was not that good in the preseason. We have to move on.
Yes, I think Alex Insdorf would tell you to calm down and move on at this point.
Yeah, and he was a bigger fan of the Rocket than anybody else in draft season.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think the Chargers are at the point where they should try and explore some potential trade market here to replace what they lost really in Najee Harris. This isn't even really about Omarion Hampton. They need another guy here, and Rocket is not that guy. So we're gonna mention some names here. Alvin Kamara is not on this list. For anybody wondering, we're not talking about Breece Hall right here. We're not talking about these players who are the Chargers would have to trade, you know, like a 3rd round pick for. This is definitely more of kind of a replacement, you know, special teams player, somebody that's explosive. There's a very specific type here that we are looking at. We are not looking at like any big time names here. So if that's what you were interested in, I'm sorry, but that's just not how we're doing this. So the first one here that I'm going to bring up is Dameon Pierce, the running back from the Houston Texans. He is in the last year of his 4th round rookie contract. Why would the Texans trade him? Excuse me. He's behind Nick Chubb and Woody Marks for touches, and Ogunbowale plays their special teams role is their pass catcher. Pierce has only been active for 2 games, and there's been like a weird scheme change for the Texans over the last few seasons. He had a great rookie season, flashed a lot last year in limited touches too. So he averaged over 6 yards per carry last season, over 6 yards after contact per attempt last season, 11 missed tackles forced last season on 46 attempts. And he had 350 kickoff return yards on 10 returns last season. So this is somebody who could potentially, replace that role where he can give you some juice, he can give you some physicality, and he can help boost the return game where he averaged 35 yards per kickoff return last year, including an 80-yard kickoff return. And the year prior, he averaged over 30 yards per attempt on 8 attempts in 2023. So this is a player who I think could help them on special teams, could help them replace what they are missing from not having Najee Harris. And there's obviously pre-existing dialogue between the Chargers and Texans from the Austin Deculus trade and Cam Robinson inquiry. So I think this, to me, this is the player I would be targeting for a running back move of if I was going to be looking at it. We're going to have some other ones here, but of the ones that I am bringing to the table, Dameon Pierce is my guy.
Yeah, this is my favorite as well. One of the players that I actually watched, like someone we've watched in college tape, and I think you really liked him. Yeah. I definitely liked him. I think he was a draft favorite among a lot of analysts. The big thing here, and a theme you'll see with a lot of these players, is the return game. They tried Keandre Lambert-Smith. I respect it. They might try Miller Hines. They might try Jalen Reagor, by the way, who is expected to sign with the Chargers.
Yep.
They're going to try a variety of things. Keandre Lambert-Smith somehow was worse. I don't know how that was possible. And at this point, I think it has to be coaching or something, because I can't believe what I'm watching every day in these returns. Pierce giving them anything past the 22.5-yard line would be some kind of improvement. And he's at least shown that. So look, Hampton comes back. He's your lead. You have Haskins, whatever, Fidel, fine. If nothing else, these options will give you something in the return game. But Pierce, as a runner, as an overall option, I loved him as a blocker. I loved him as a receiver. I thought he was one of the most well-rounded, not like elite in a category, but just well-rounded backs in that class. So I'd be happy to have him.
Yeah, and I think even like there's been a lot of Texans fans who've like, oh, well, he regressed after his rookie season. Sure, from a volume standpoint, but he's still putting up really solid, per rushing, per play stats. And I think, him contributing on special teams is still important. So I think he can help you in a variety of ways. The Keandre Lambert-Smith situation at kick returner it's really bad. And I think the Chargers blocking unit, like I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on the new kickoff rules, but there were a couple of times where Keandre Lambert-Smith, I feel like on tape, had a lane, and instead of like going vertical, he would not necessarily bounce it, but he would start going the other direction, and he's running into where the Chargers blockers are not. They're not blocking. So I think some of the issues with the return game is the lack of vision. Like, and Brett Coleman has talked about this, that where the new kickoff rules are more of like, they're more like running plays. And so that's why a lot of teams have running backs back there. And I think Pierce would help there. And you pointed out after the game on Sunday where Matt Gay and the special teams unit, like they were targeting Keandre Lambert-Smith returns. They were kicking away from Kamani Vidal. And I think this is an area where we'll see if Nye Miller Hines like fixes this, and maybe we're not talking about this, but they need some help in the return game, and I think Pierce would be the best option there.
Yeah, I'm all aboard this one. This is my favorite option that we have.
Nice. Glad we're on the same page there. Your next one, or your first one here, is Isaiah Davis, the running back from the Jets.
I don't have a huge belief that he's available with 2 years left on his rookie deal, but I'm looking for any kind of option. And I think anytime you have a connection to former team and this player is not exactly playing a ton, you got to bring it up. The Jets stink. They suck. They're probably going to trade players. It may not be Davis, but I think they're going to trade somebody at some point. They lost Braylon Allen. They could pivot to Khalil Herbert. Braylon Allen being out doesn't really help Davis's availability. Right. I don't know if they like Khalil Herbert more. It reminds me of like earlier in the season where I said, look, they brought in Chris Rumpf and Foskey might be out, and then he ended up being out. Why would they trade for him? Right now, he's number 3 in the NFL in kickoff returns and yards per attempt at 29.4. I don't know where the Chargers are at. I don't recall the last time they really got to the 29.4, so I would love to get there. He is a bigger back that can give you a bit more of a replacement, that 1-2 punch. He was second in the NFL last year in yards after contact per attempt. With Bradley Bozeman blocking the way, you're going to need to be good after contact because it's going to get to you. So being second in the NFL on, I think, 37 attempts last year, which isn't a ton, but being that good in yards after contact per attempt is nice. Is he a great player? Not necessarily. But when I watched him last year, it was like, or a couple years ago, just felt like a player the Chargers needed. I advocated for him 2 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Hasn't been great with the Jets overall in terms of like finding his footing and being a long-term solution. I just think I think it's a different regime. They've tried to find different players to move on, go move past Davis. He's never really been that guy for them. I think they trade him. Probably not, but they suck. And there's an existing connection to this team.
They're really bad.
They're so bad.
They're so bad. They needed garbage time touchdowns to get past 20 points on the Cowboys defense, which Caleb Williams like lit up like nobody's business. Russell Wilson lit them up. Thank you. That's even worse. So the fact that they couldn't move the ball on the Cowboys is not very good. There are some other players on the roster that you could definitely talk about. As we've discussed on the show previously, starting offensive linemen are not going to be traded. It's just not a thing. Just even if you're a horrible team, you need those guys to function properly. Maybe you could talk them into one of their defensive tackles or something like that. But Isaiah Davis to me makes a lot of sense. Again, replacing the explosive element of Omarion Hampton, the special teams production, I think would help. So I think Isaiah Davis is a fine player to bring up as well.
Yeah.
Next for me is Jerome Ford, somebody that is actively on the market, according to some Cleveland insiders. So he is in the final year of his 5th-round rookie contract. Why are the Browns potentially trading him? They drafted Judkins and Sampson this year. Again, they are also very bad. They just traded Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a fire sale when you are trading your potentially starting quarterback in division. Like, they're going to have to play against Joe Flacco going forward, which is just funny to me. So again, fits into the kind of bucket where you're talking about a like potential running back 2 who can play on special teams. His special teams production is definitely not as good as Pierce's or Davis's, but he has the experience. He definitely has the speed. Was like the main thing that people liked about him when he was coming out of college, out of Cincinnati. So I think he could complement Omarion well in that regard when Omarion does come back, where he is kind of your speedy, change of pace back. He averaged over 5 yards per carry last season on 104 attempts. 36% of his rushing yards have gone over 10 plus yards per PFF. So his breakaway number on that category is really, really good. So he's got a little J.K. Dobbins in him in that regard, where if you block for 1, he's probably going to get 1, but maybe he pops it for like 11 or 12.
Sure.
So I think the explosiveness element here is mostly what you're looking for. Productive receiver as well. So, Ford, I think, could be interesting. And we know the Browns are selling. They've already started. So,
yeah, would love this acquisition as well. Probably doesn't cost much. Yeah, trading your quarterback to your division rival, which is the first time you've done this in your entire franchise history, usually kind of indicates you're not expecting much to happen this season. Now, I know they have Dylan Gabriel. He's my height, by the way, if you didn't know. Speaking of Alex, if they acquired
Alex,
they would acquire Jerome Ford, which would put, I think, one of his favorite players in that draft, with Kamani Vidal, one of his favorite players in that draft, with Rocket Sanders, but Rocket Sanders was on the team earlier. So I get my receiver synergy with like McConkey and Harris, and Alex gets day 3 running back synergy with the Chargers, perhaps, and then UDFAs. I'm all on board with this one. It probably doesn't cost much, so let's do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think all of these I feel like are pretty affordable, but Ford and Pierce I feel like are the ones who are most available. Your last one here, another Baltimore Raven, Mr. Keaton Mitchell.
wasn't even going to add him to the list until the Ravens just traded with the Chargers. So I figured, yeah, shoot, might as well mention it because the Ravens just traded with the Chargers. So final year of a 3-year UDFA deal. This is definitely, I don't know how much they can count on him. He's just coming back from injury. Granted, now he's back from injury. So the Ravens had to deal with all of that. Now he's back. The Ravens are clearly open to moves. Some, Ravens social media people were like, yeah, I think more moves might be on the way as well. They have Derrick Henry locked in, Justice Hill's locked in, Rasheen Ali is their kick returner, and he's locked in. So I think Mitchell at this point is at a spot where he could be flippable. He is someone that does have actual connections to Joe Hortiz. They brought him in his final year. He's an elite speed guy, elite explosion guy. Vidal is fast, but he's not exactly explosive in that regard, and the RAS bears out there. And I just think, if Hampton comes back and maybe you feel good about Vidal and maybe you feel good about Haskins, I don't know, take a chance. Take a chance on a player that used to average 8.4 yards per attempt, 5.68 yards after contact per attempt, which is pretty crazy. Both those numbers, I'm sure, had to have been leaders that year in 2023. So give it a whirl. Might not cost much. I think the Ravens might want to use him still, but it just feels like he's RB4 at this point in terms of overall involvement. So give it a whirl. Ask, see what you can do. The Chargers have gambled on former Ravens players who had great yards per attempt before. J.K. Dobbins more involved, like multi-year running back for them, but I could see them taking this as a bit of a risky option, which I don't love because we're down 2 running backs because of injuries. But if Hampton comes back, you've got this explosive player. Could be interesting.
Yeah, so his injury, I just looked it up, was a torn ACL and MCL, so it was not great. He missed the entire 2024 season. So it's great to hear that he's back healthy. He's not playing a ton, so potentially some injury risk there. But I mentioned like that pop pass to Hampton. They did this last week. The Ravens in 2023 were doing that a ton with Keaton Mitchell, using him on jet sweeps, using him in very creative ways to get explosive opportunities going. And I think this could be worth the risk. He knows the offense is a very similar offense, even though he never played for Greg Roman. And then last year on his undrafted free agent contract, I think very, very affordable. So this would be one that I would be about as well. Did he return kicks in 2023? I feel like that was a thing.
He did. I don't have the numbers in front of me. They were solid. I think that was before the rule change. So I don't know what the average was, but I remember being like, okay.
Yeah, so he could help there as well. But man, I think any of these 4 would make a lot of sense for the Chargers.
Yep. And sorry, guys, it's not Breece Hall, who I'm pretty sure is not available. It's not Alvin Kamara, who the Saints reporters say is not available. These are different options.
I didn't even notice that Alohi was actually in this picture.
Yeah.
No, not on purpose
at all. Once I pasted that, I realized, it is Gilman. Not on purpose at all. Just a pure coincidence.
Yeah, pure coincidence there. I think there's a chance that like Breece Hall or Alvin Kamara are available. That's probably more of a 1 month down the road when the trade deadline is actually around. So there are these moves like Oweh where the teams are trying to pivot to the younger players now, where that player is available. But the Jets are going to want to try and keep winning and not be horrible. And the Saints are going to try and not be horrible for at least another month. And then we'll see where they're at.
Give them a month.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Last thing. I have some thoughts on Bradley Bozeman. This is not going to be a super long conversation. But yeah, it's not pretty right now. By the numbers, his pass blocking efficiency rating of 35 qualified centers is 26th. From pass blocking grade, it's 29th. Run blocking grade, it's 35th. Zone is 29th. Gap is 35th. Gap scheme, I should say. His overall grade is 34th out of 35th. His pass blocking efficiency rating, pass blocking grade, and overall grade are trending to be the worst of his career. His pass blocking grade is the second worst of his career. And those numbers are backed up on tape. And I think the run blocking in particular, like, if you're the Chargers, why'd you make it go away?
Because I just want to see your face for this one.
Oh, okay.
I want the world to know how we feel.
Okay, sounds good. The numbers are not good. From a run blocking perspective, that's like the sell. The Chargers sign him. He's a good run blocker. He has some issues in pass protection. He's a good leader, good communicator, all of that stuff. Run blocking is like the sell. Like that's why you bring him in. The run blocking is basically almost as bad as the pass protection right now. And the part that's really frustrating to me is that they're not doing the Bradley Bozeman concepts anymore. Like the reason you sign Bradley Bozeman as a run blocker, he's a much better fit in gap. He wants to get downhill. You can use him as a short area puller. They're not doing that right now. The way that they are building the ship of this run game, at least with Hampton, we'll see what happens with the next few games. But the last few games with Hampton, they're doing a lot of counter to the edge. They're doing a lot of power to the edge. They're doing an outside zone, a lot of crack toss. It's a lot of concepts where your center has to be at minimum, at least an above average athlete, where you're asking him to reach a 3 technique on the opposite side. You're asking him to climb to get to the second level. You're asking him to pull out to the perimeter and get to the third level. Bradley Bozeman can't do any of that right now. He looks slower than he did last year, and he's like, that's a problem. So essentially, when from a run blocking perspective, if you're not asking him to reach the one tech in front of him, he's giving you nothing. And that's your sell as the Chargers to why you're signing him, is that he's a good run blocker. He fits our system. You're changing your system, and it doesn't fit his skill set anymore. And then also the pass protection stuff is a mess. It's so bad. And it's not just the communication stuff. It's not the stunts. You know, did you listen to the audio of him, you know, giving up that pressure?
Oh, yeah, with Herbert? Yeah.
Yeah, where you hear him say, God damn it. Like the communication aspect is so bad. The stunts pickup is so bad. He is allowing a free rusher on Herbert once or twice a game every single week. And then this week, Deron Payne and Johnny Newton like kicked his ass one-on-one. It was brutal tape to watch. So I don't think the Chargers are going to bench him, but he is playing significantly worse than he was last year. And I know Chargers fans think he has always been this bad. It's much worse right now than it was last year.
It's so bad. And I've come to that realization very quickly watching him in person. Like I will just hate watch. I don't remember the last time I went to a Chargers game and just hate watch in person. Yeah. Like I'm just sitting there, I'm going, you fucker, like what are you gonna do? Right? Like what's gonna happen? Like and there's a bad play, and I'm just like, you stink. I'm sorry. Bradley Bozeman, family guy, seems like a nice guy, clearly beloved captain, player, individual. Good Lord, I cannot watch this film anymore. The offensive line just seems dumber with him out there. I'm not saying it's necessarily his fault, but it's not getting better because of him. It's not working because of him. It's just, yeah, Kenneth Murray, that's definitely one for sure. I just, it's painful to watch what is generally perhaps a very well executed run blocking play or screen or something. Yeah. And Bradley Bozeman just can't get there. And you're right. He looks slower and less athletic, less nimble than before. It's not just like, is it the linear speed? It's just some of the short area stuff. And there's that gif of like the toddler, he like runs out like from behind a wall and he was like, ooh, and he has to like turning the neck around. Like that's what it looks like when Bradley Bozeman is on the move, man. It's like I can find the clip and I can find plays where I swear it's like he's just like, oh, I gotta go this way. I'm so sorry. We're not getting hired back by the Chargers. I just can't stand watching him anymore. I said it on the last stream. I can't do it anymore. Oh my goodness. It's just bad. Okay, so run blocking is the worst in the league. Pass blocking is the worst in the league. The protection calls are the worst in the league. Your quarterback's yelling at you. The media doesn't like. It's a bad situation. And once again, I'll say it again. Y'all can't convince me he's not back next year.
Man. Anon is saying that we apparently, or me specifically, said that Bozeman played well the first 3 weeks. That is not accurate. He was just not bad. I think the more I'm watching the Chargers offensive line, the more I'm learning that Zion Johnson and Mekhi Becton are covering up a lot of issues for Bradley Bozeman. And as soon as you remove one of those guys, which it's not Zion has not missed a snap. As soon as Mekhi Becton comes out, the pass protection just craters, man. And a lot of that is because he's so big and athletic and strong where he just covers up so many issues. Is it potentially a scapegoat situation? I guess, but what's the alternative, man? Like your starting center is allowing quick pressure more often than any other center in the league. And it's so frustrating to watch. You know, if he's not a good communicator, he's a bad run blocker, he's a bad pass protector. Like, what are we doing? What are we actually doing here? And people are mad at Jim Harbaugh for not calling him out. Jim Harbaugh is never going to do that. That's just not who he is. Frankly, 99% of college coaches, NFL coaches are not going to negatively speak about a player at the podium. It's just not, it's not the place where they will have those conversations. But Jim Harbaugh calling out a missed assignment from Bradley Bozeman to me is very, very relevant. Like, we have not heard Jim Harbaugh call out a missed assignment like that previously. And there was a lot of Daniel Popper shit thrown around last season because people got really annoyed about him asking for injury stuff like that. We do not get that acknowledgement from Jim Harbaugh without Daniel Popper asking those questions and following up and following up and following up. And it's funny how people turn on that and now they're like, yeah, go Popper. And I'm like, he's doing his job. He did the same exact thing last year. You guys just didn't like the questions he was asking. So big shout out to Daniel Popper. I don't know if a benching is coming anytime soon. It can't be worse with Andre James. Like, they never gave him a chance to play. I don't think it's going to happen. It literally cannot be worse right now. Like, at minimum, I know he will be a better fit for what they do on the run game perspective. And maybe he eliminates some communication errors. If he's 10% better, it's worth it to make that change. Like, I'm almost at the point where I'm begging Jim Harbaugh to just make the change and just see. If it's not better, you do it against the Dolphins, who have a bad defensive line. If it's not better, you can go back to Bradley Bozeman. You have my permission. It can't be worse. It can't be worse.
It can't be worse. I don't think. It shouldn't be worse. Okay, what's more likely? They bench Bradley Bozeman for Andre James, or they just put Zion at center and put Bradley Bozeman at left guard as a post-buy shakeup.
Oh man, I have zero interest in seeing Bradley Bozeman play guard. I think his issues would be expedited at guard. As Thomas points out, put Zion at center and put Jamari Sawyer at left guard. I think that would be a much better situation right now. So it's just really frustrating. Like, they had backups in the game and Bradley Bozeman was the worst player on the line. Like, that's where we are at. Austin Deculus allowed 5 pressures, and I think he played better than Bradley Bozeman did.
Yeah, almost 3 sacks. I don't know.
One of the sacks was really not his fault, but
yeah,
it was not pretty.
It's either way. Specific to Bozeman, it is really bad. Thankfully, they're moving past some of the interior defensive linemen that are better. So they play the Dolphins. Who's next?
The Colts have a really good defensive line.
The Colts one's pretty good.
Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner. Yeah.
Pretty good. The Vikings
have Jonathan Allen, and
Titans are pretty dang good with their interior. The Steelers are good.
Jeffrey Simmons is going to do filthy things in that game. I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I think Jeffrey Simmons is like crushing the field in interior pressures right now.
Yeah, every week it's like, well, look at him get off the snap in 0.01 seconds and then sack the quarterback by a second one. So he's pretty good.
Yeah, Jeffrey Simmons has 24 pressures, 4 sacks, and 5 quarterback hits. And his pass rush win rate is 21.6% as an interior defensive lineman. That's pretty freaking insane.
Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good.
Oh, man. And yeah, he's a team captain and all that stuff, but
Yeah, great question. I'm curious if they've ever benched a team captain. I don't remember enough of them. They didn't bench Eric Kendricks. Was Sebastian Joseph Day a team captain ever?
Yes, actually he was. Then they cut him.
They cut him. Granted, they fired the head coach too.
Yeah.
Which is not happening. So Well, yeah, Bradley's Bozeman, the whole experience stinks. We're gonna put that talk buried in the back third of this live stream. So hopefully the players don't pick up on it. But I hope it's better. I don't expect it to be.
Yeah, same. If he can just get back to last year, like I'll be not happy, but I'll take it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure. You can get, yeah, what was he? 24th instead of 30th.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Just be 10% better and I'll be okay.
That'd be great.
All right, let's end with some super chats here. Mr. Dark Chow Chow says, love it. Always a freak athlete, can run. Like you mentioned earlier, that I think that's the number one calling card right now that the Chargers are trying to get. And I think that's a great move.
Mm-hmm.
Nature's Calls podcast.
Whoa.
Appreciate our guy in here with a big super chat. Says, trade for an edge. Check. Trade for Garendo or Roshan. Bench Bozeman. Perfect week is off to a good start. You know, I don't hate the Isaac Garendo or Roshan Johnson call outs either. I think those are two potentially good ones as well.
Yeah, I don't mind those either. Is Garendo playing?
He was hurt, but I think he should be back. But Christian McCaffrey plays like 80% of their snaps. So
yeah. I know they trade for Brian Robinson. I don't think he's playing.
Yeah.
He returned he returned a kick for 18 yards against the Rams. That's the last thing Garendo did. So
nice. Good job. To be fair, the Rams kickoff team is actually like amazing.
Is it? Oh, okay.
They're one of the main teams that's doing like the whole like screwball kick. So I think they're like first or second in kickoff return allowed. So they're really good.
Nice.
Shout out to Nature's Calls podcast though. Check him out on social media, and he's doing some great work in his own right.
Yeah, thank you.
Dre says that Cade Piper out of Iowa plays guard, but will be a center in the NFL. Most athletic lineman Mike Renner has ever seen. I want to say this is Thomas Martinez's favorite, if I'm not mistaken. I see him in the chat right now. Is this the one? Is this the ginger with the mullet, Thomas?
Sold.
Sold. There's a couple Iowa offensive linemen this year that I think are really good. I know their center is a good one. Maybe that's the one that I'm thinking of, but Iowa has a few quality NFL linemen. They always do. It's an offensive lineman factory, which is so funny that they're never any good. Okay, the ginger with the mullet is right tackle Jennings Dunker. What a name.
Jennings Dunker. Guys.
Sick.
I know who I'm watching first.
That's sick.
Right tackle Jennings Dunker, the redhead with the mullet. That's who I'm watching first. As far as most athletic linemen you've ever seen, okay, I'm going to compare that to Penei Sewell every time.
Yeah, Penei, going to be hard to beat Penei and Tristan Wirfs for me, but another Iowa lineman. But yeah,
true.
Anthony, he says ban Jay Herbo in the Discord more often to get some more trades from Joe Ortiz. Jay Herbo was not banned. He just got put in timeout. He just needed a break. It's okay. He'll be back.
All good.
Isaiah and Kelsey Lewis says, teams don't trade good linemen. LOL, Jesus.
I appreciate it, you guys. Yes, they generally don't trade good linemen. They barely even trade average linemen or even starter linemen. So again, I'm always happy if the Chargers are that first team in several years to get that starter, but it doesn't seem likely.
Yeah, I pointed this out on Twitter. Since 2020 to now, in between training camp and the trade deadline, there have been 6 trades involving centers, and none of them were starting caliber players. And I know that's like there are guards and tackles and stuff like that too, but 6 centers have been traded across 5 seasons after the season started. In that same time frame, Odafe Oweh just became the 24th edge rusher. So it's so much more available to trade and upgrade your pass rush than it is your pass protection. Teams just don't trade starting linemen. And it can happen. You can get a guy like a Cam Robinson on a bad team, on a bad contract. But generally speaking, teams aren't like people are talking about Tyler Linderbaum as like the next Ravens trade. Like we need to stop. We need to stop.
Yeah. And Lamar's coming back in like 2 weeks too.
Like,
where's my team?
Right.
Oh man.
Michael Flores asked, "Did you guys enjoy Popper grilling Harbaugh yesterday with the Bozeman questions?" I sure did. it is part of his job, and he does it very well. And we are very fortunate to have Daniel Popper on the Chargers beat, and I definitely enjoyed him asking those questions.
Yeah, in times like this, especially if things start to unravel more, you do need people asking the right questions and being brave enough to ask the right questions.
Yeah,
and it can be a little irritating for some Chargers fans. I get it, but it's not cowardly. When things are really bad and people start asking the tough questions, it's just easy, right?
Yeah.
It's just the easy thing you can pile on. When you're the guy, when things are, I mean, they're 3-2, asking the tougher questions, I respect that. You've been that guy, not just someone who piles on once everything is bad.
Yeah. I agree there. Devo asks, was watching Matt Money Smith pod. He mentioned other teams mandate the offensive line wear braces, which help prevent injuries. Why the Chargers aren't making it mandatory baffles me. Could have possibly avoided. Thoughts?
I don't know enough. I can't even tell you medically why that helps or what the data is. To each their own. I don't know. I'll do whatever it takes to make these linemen stay healthy and this team stay healthy. Fine. You want to put 2 braces and 2 arm braces and a back brace and balloon wrap on whatever, bubble wrap on these players. Fine.
Yeah, whatever works for me. I think some of the Chargers offensive linemen wear braces, but I think it is a lot of preference thing for like somebody like Zion or Rashawn Slater, who they're freak athletes at their positions. Wearing a clunky knee brace can make you feel like you are losing a bit of your edge. So that's part of it. Braces are not going to always be a cure for your offensive line injuries. Like they probably help, but you can still get injured while wearing a brace. But yeah, I don't know enough about that. Maybe we can ask Duke Manyweather or Brandon Thorne or something about that one day. Who knows? Yeah.
The Chargers would find a way to be the first team in history to have everyone wear a brace, and then all the braces are built with like batteries that catch on fire or something. It's just something bad will happen.
Yep. Caleb Porter wants to know if Bozeman continues to play bad, could we finally see the coaching staff give Andre James a chance? I think there is slightly more of a chance now than 5 weeks ago, but I still probably am assuming that Bozeman plays the rest of the season.
Bozeman plays the rest of the season. That's where I'm at. And you know what? If that's boring and sad and you guys think that's, too pessimistic, fine. I'll be elated when it changes, but it won't.
Yeah. Sep Nozari, what happens to $10 million in cap space if we do not use it? Are we better off using the same players on the O-line instead of constantly changing them? Can I play center? At least I will listen to number 10. LOL.
Yeah, if Justin Herbert tells me to block that guy, I'll get run over, but I'll block that guy. So I won't argue there. What happens if you don't use it? Roll over. I don't know where they're at though, because the Oweh trade, I'm sure, changes things a little bit.
Let's see. So they were at
like 11 or 10.
Do they have Oweh on here already?
Over the cap.
Yeah, so it has not changed. So they're at $10 million right now, $10.6 million right now. Anything they don't use will roll over. So, I know that there's people who have been critical of like the lack of using cap space. Well, now they only have about $2 million left in cap space with the Oweh trade. So they can create some more if they feel like they need to. Like they can restructure some contracts if they want to. But yeah, any cap space you don't use rolls over to the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Saba says positives, a lot of correctable mistakes, negatives, terrible run defense, soft third and long pass defense. Side note, solid trade, Cook, Chef H.
Yeah, solid trade. That's what I think it is. I think it's not a home run. It's not a terrible trade. It's a solid trade at a position they needed it. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, we purposely did not plan to talk about the film. I feel like a little better about the offensive performance. Like not a lot. It was not a great performance by any means, but seeing some of the throws that Herbert made that didn't count, like it sucks that they didn't count, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, they still have that dude at quarterback, and the offense should be competitive each week, even if it didn't look like it on Sunday.
Yeah, watching Herbert's, I mean, that was genuinely one of my favorite games of his. It was just like pressure, off script, turning the body a different way throw, the throw to Keenan that was almost counted.
The throw to
second-
Lad was crazy
The throw to
good.
Lad, he had so many great throws this game. I didn't appreciate it watching it live because I'm just watching him run for his life. Watching the film, he was so good. It was a great Herbert game. It really was.
Yeah, I agree there. I think defensively, one thing I'm very curious about, which if we had done a film review, this might have been like my narrative of the week. The Commanders brought in Trent Scott as a sixth offensive lineman for like 17 snaps.
Yeah.
And when they ran the ball out of that look, they absolutely gashed the Chargers. And the Broncos did the same thing. So something to keep in mind when the Chargers are playing like next week when they play the Colts, who do that a lot. When they play the Steelers in a few weeks, they do that a lot. And they also have Darnell Washington, who's basically an extra offensive lineman. So the Chargers, when they go into their base defense, it is not good right now. So something to keep in mind. Obviously, having Khalil Mack back will help that a lot. But putting a pin in that, it might be just like the 2-game thing. But if it's a problem the rest of the season, definitely need to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
Tara Romero says, F it, just put Jamari Caldwell at center. Ain't no one getting past that wall. LOL, is Jim not playing Andre James a loyalty thing, or is James really not any better?
I don't know where they feel about him now. We discussed this, or I discussed this, gave a whole list of why Andre James would not be the guy for them. You know, it's experience. It's the fact that he was coming back from an injury and they like Bozeman's versatility and he's their captain. But Brett Coleman just flat out said, like, Andre James sucked last year. And he hoped that he was not starting over Bradley Bozeman. So now I think for a lot of Chargers fans and us, it's a debate of like, is it the guy from 2023 or the guy from 2024? Which version are they getting here in the system? And I don't know, right now they just don't trust it.
Yeah, I think if they wanted Andre James to challenge for the starting spot, we would have seen it more often. Like he would have been given the reps, but he never really had any chance at potentially starting. There was no competition for him to get into the starting lineup. So I think they wanted to sign him to solidify the backup spot. Like I think if Bozeman gets hurt, I think they will feel okay with James playing, but I don't think they ever signed him with the intention to actually have him challenge for a starting spot. So is it a loyalty thing? Yes and no. Like this front office and this coaching staff knows Bozeman in and out. Like they know everything about him. And I think they don't really know what they have in Andre James right now. So that's definitely part of it. Michael Flores, is the Bose drama causing disbelief in Harbaugh? I think there are some fans who are very upset at their continuing to put faith into Bradley Bozeman. Like it's 5 games and maybe he can turn this thing back around like he was playing last year. But some fans see that PFF grade and they're like, pardon my French, but what the fuck is going on here? Like, why is this player continuing to play over somebody who could potentially be better? So there's a lot of fans who are very upset by this because it's directly causing Justin Herbert to be hit more often than he deserves to be hit.
It really also just is it's skepticism and some disbelief in just what Harbaugh has stood for. It's the offensive line and competitors welcome. Neither has been addressed or consistent in 2 years.
Yeah.
Again, last year, we can all give them a pass. They're trying to make it work in year 1. In year 2, to have no actual competition, for the competition to be a joke, oh yeah, we're going to do this and that, and to not do it. Jim Harbaugh and what players love about him, and you can find anything about this, it's his sincerity and what he really means what he says, and he follows through with that. If you're telling me the offensive line is the tip of the spear and competitors are welcome and you have no competition and you don't invite competitors to compete and you stick with a player who on film and statistically is not good and is now really bad, then you're almost a liar. And we don't like that. Chargers fans do not like being lied to, being duped, whatever you want to call it. The defense, for whatever reason, awesome competition. They are the best versions of themselves generally because of that competition. Yeah. Even though the talent isn't really even there. With just specifically the offensive line and the interior offensive line, I don't know why. And specifically at center, which is getting Herbert killed, just feels like we're duped, we're lied to. It's inconsistent. We expect, what Harbaugh says he means, and it just doesn't feel like that. So I understand why Chargers fans would be feeling some disbelief in Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mean they're still doing a rotation at corner. Like they're still getting Dante Jackson,
Yeah.
Benjamin St. Juste, and Cam Hart. They're all getting reps. Again, Kyle Kennard was inactive this week for Cleveland Farrell. They're actively trying and looking for ways to constantly upgrade and be better. You know, Naquan Jones was inactive this week. I think that decision backfired. But at least the defensive staff is willing to make those decisions. The offensive coaching staff, for whatever reason, and maybe this is a Greg Roman thing. Maybe Greg Roman is the one who kind of is pushing the Bradley Bozeman stuff. But I think they genuinely think that Bradley Bozeman played like well enough last year to merit returning, and they're not going to rush to make this change right now. But players are also not dumb. Like players know that a guy who is out there and not performing could potentially be better if he were replaced. And so some of that is what led to Sebastian Joseph Day being released, is that the players felt like there were better options instead of him, and that he was being favored by the coaching staff, and then the coaching staff got fired, and then he got released. So players are not dumb. They can tell if there's a guy better than him behind him, and we'll see if the Chargers ever actually feel like Andre James is better than him. But Jim Harbaugh was asked about that. When would you be willing to make a change? And he said, when we feel like there's a better option. So right now they don't feel like there's a better option, so they're sticking with Bradley Bozeman.
Yeah, that one's rough. When we feel like there's a better option. Okay, so essentially it's nobody on your roster.
Yeah.
And again, let's see how next year goes.
Yeah. Anthony Joseph says, to be honest, receiving and special teams deserve the majority of the blame. Fire special teams and receivers coach.
Definitely not going to do that. I will give Ryan Ficken a full season to see it. They are trying different individuals out there. They are trying to loop some new rookies in, for better or worse. Wax and Williamson, and I know Murphy's not a rookie, but essentially really playing full time for the first time on special teams. They're trying to make it work. Receivers coach, no, thank you. Quentin John.
I don't know what we're watching if that's how you feel.
Yeah, it's not on the receivers coach if you're talking about the lack of receiving production.
Yeah.
For like a McConkey, that is just, the line is not blocking. They have nothing. They can't do anything down the field with him. And they took Quentin Johnston and turned him into a good receiver. You could be an offensive coordinator for all I care if you can do that. So
yeah. Sanjay Law deserves a ton of credit for how Quentin Johnston has turned out. Trey Harris is not like popping as a receiver. I think that will start to happen more often, but dude, Trey Harris is blocking his ass off as a run blocker. Like they are actively making him set the edge on toss plays. They are using him as a lead blocker in motion situations.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen for a young player without good receiving coaches. And so Sanjay Lal is doing a great job. They've integrated Keenan Allen very smoothly into this offense. That was a big concern of mine. Sanjay Lal is a big part of that. So I think on offense, I would say that Sanjay Lal is easily their best position coach. Like I don't think it's even remotely close that Sanjay Lal is their best position coach.
Yeah, I don't mind that take in terms of, it's not the offensive line, tight ends. I couldn't.
It's definitely not offensive line.
I can tell you who's the worst. Everything else. Kill McDonald, Hampton's had a nice transition, so that's good.
Sure.
But he's a first round pick. But yeah, Sanjay Lal I think has done. I mean, again, it's Quentin Johnston. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Trey Harris. I hope. I don't know. Get him more targets. Get a spark. If you're scoring 10 points a game, try something different. They were this close to a touchdown to Trey Harris there, which wasn't great. But he's blocking his tail off. When I'm watching him block like front side on a play against the edge rusher, whoever it was, like when you're a receiver blocking someone with the number 96 or whatever, like they trust you a lot to do some pretty impressive stuff. And he's looked pretty good. Yeah.
To be clear, that take about Sanjay was about offensive coaches. Mike Elston is my pick for overall best position coach. Like that man,
I don't mind that.
That man has turned so many cast-offs and late round picks into quality players. Like at defensive tackle, it's pretty crazy. So Mike Elston is my vote for best overall position coach. But on offense, it's Lal pretty closely. And Mighty points out, yes, we can absolutely give credit to the players here. Quentin Johnston, as we've said previously, deserves a ton of credit for keeping his head down, going to work, and just continuing to do the right things at the right times and, improving himself. And he is always working extra with Sanjay Lal. So yes, absolutely. Quentin Johnson deserves a big shout out there.
Totally. Absolutely. I don't know. Zion looks better.
Yeah.
I'm not giving Devlin credit for that.
No, that to me is a Zion and Duke Manyweather thing. That's not a Mike Devlin thing.
Sorry, Devlin.
Zion's getting the Duke Manyweather bump 2 years later. It just took a minute to pop.
Yeah. Late GAC bump, but we're getting there, guys.
Yeah, very late GAC bump.
Listen, Zion Johnson's kind of getting better. Devin Lloyd's having a breakout. Again, never wrong, everybody. Just give me a few years.
Yeah. Theory says Popper was the one who asked BS if he deserved to be the Chargers coach, or asking that. Brandon Staley was fired the next day. When all of the Brandon Staley stuff was happening, Popper and Chris Rim were definitely grilling him on stuff. So Chris Rim has not really waded into those waters with Jim Harbaugh quite yet. But he definitely deserves a lot of credit for how that went down with Brandon Staley, and his reporting after the fact was fantastic.
Yo, totally. Yeah, the only time Popper asked a question, I was like, when he asked Anthony Lynn if he wanted to apologize to Justin Herbert for saying he's a backup for a reason or something, and Lynn was just like, I was just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, it was an odd question. But otherwise, I think I like Popper's reporting.
Yeah. Nitzer 666 says, sorry guys, just briefly stopping by as I'm focused on the Yankees versus Blue Jays game. Keep up the great work as usual. Let's go Blue Jays. Yeah, I appreciate you jumping in here. I have no baseball takes, so I hope whoever you are rooting for does well. It would be cool to see the Blue Jays, who I don't think have ever really been deep into the playoffs. Like that is the one thing I always appreciate about baseball is like the teams who are bad can become really good. Like the Mariners are relevant this year. There are other takes. I don't really pay attention, but generally speaking, there are bad teams who can turn around things pretty quickly and go far in the playoffs, which I always appreciate.
Except the Angels.
Yeah. You have to be willing to spend some money. Maybe don't let Shohei Ohtani walk to the opposite team in your city if you want to be serious.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know. I got nothing, guys.
Yeah. Ninjalo says if the defense is constantly moving pieces and the offense is not, maybe it's a coordinator problem. Trade and stick Desmond Watson at center. He'll be better than Bozeman. Much love from Brazil.
if they lose the next 10 games, I'll give it a whirl. Why not?
Yeah, that's a sad situation, by the way. He's like still not practicing for the Bucks. He's just like walking laps. It's super weird. But
at least he's on the team. I don't know.
Yeah. But much love from the United States to Brazil. We appreciate you guys down there. We actually have gotten a good amount of Brazilian fans after that game. So shout out to anybody new from Brazil. We appreciate you guys.
Nice.
All right. I think that was it. Okay. Tyler, any final thoughts, man?
I forgot to change my name this entire time. So I'm going to change my name to Tyler J. Shun. There we go. No final thoughts. I'm just glad we didn't do film review because this was a little more fun, a little more positive.
Yeah. It was definitely more fun to do trade stuff for sure. So I think we made good time. Apparently the Blue Jays have won back-to-back World Series titles. Shows what I know about baseball. I thought they've always been bad. So
I don't know when they've won them. I don't know. Steven and I were born in 94 and 95. So
yeah. All right, you guys. That is going to do it for us today. We'll be back on Thursday for our preview of this week's game against the Miami Dolphins, which is suddenly a lot more important than we all thought it was going to be after a few weeks ago. So we'll be back for that. And hopefully you guys can leave a rating, review, comment, like, all that good stuff does genuinely help continue to grow our show. We appreciate the heck out of you. And as always, bolt up.